in 3, 2.
All right. So this is KA0SPM, and you can't see me right now, but I will do something about that. Here I am. So, the Jungle Chaser Storm Team has suffered a few slight casualties. Nothing serious. Patty will be in for her lovely face, but won't be able to talk much. And Franklin is going to be with us short time with his whatever he's going on. He can tell us what's happening there. But anyway, my name is Steve, KA0SPM. We also have a guest with us again this evening, and Kieran Killer Bee from
Hello.
the UK. Good to have you with us, sir. Go ahead and say hello to everybody.
Well, hello there, everybody.
We're certainly glad to have you aboard. And I will introduce the rest of you. We have Rodney, K0FZ, and we have Franklin, KD0RSJ, and Patty, KD0AEL. And tonight, we've got a lot of things to talk about. The I guess Midwest of the United States. And it seems that Iowa took the brunt of the damage of this derecho that came through on the 10th. It also affected Illinois and Indiana. I think the track was something in the neighborhood of 770 miles.
Yeah, it was big like that.
Yeah. So, Patty and I had just come back from a trip. We were in northeast Iowa on the 9th, and we stayed in north central Missouri for the 10th, and we're on our way back to Springfield when all of this hit. Surprisingly, Missouri did get quite a bit from this, just not as much damage. But we've got some pretty serious damage from friends of mine that live up in the city of Cedar Rapids. And I'm going to say Tracy is providing the images tonight, and I'm going to fade over to those real quick.
I was wondering if you guys had seen anything while you were up there.
Yeah, we missed it.
We were in Missouri on Sunday, so we missed it, but we were out running it as we did our adventures on Monday. So we did pretty good. We didn't get into it until we actually had seen everything we planned for that day and cut south to head home, and the radar looked like we had about a 10-mile stretch of heavy rain, hail. No, it kept sticking this finger out, and it wound up being about 50 miles of horrid downpour. It was crazy.
Right. So what you guys will see on my feed and everyone will see are the first pictures that Tracy posted around her home, and she lives in a little connected town to Cedar Rapids, Iowa called Marion, and this is her yard. They had some. She's got really big trees that are.
That whole area is big trees. Cedar Rapids is a tree city, like Springfield. So, yeah.
So she got some pretty big damage there.
That reminds me of some of the damage. I think this is more extensive, but it kind of reminds me of some of the damage we had the day before Field Day would have been 2017. That Friday we had a storm go through. I remember it quite well because that was my last day of employment at Greyhound. I know we had a bush and part of a tree down in our backyard in the corner of the. It didn't damage the house, but it got right up against the house, and there was other houses in the neighborhood that had quite a bit of damage, and not to the level of the 2007 ice storm, but there were just branches and limbs and stuff all over the place.
Right. This
Bit like what we've got here at the moment.
yeah,
Gotcha.
they were estimating between 90 and 110 mile per hour winds in the storm. Now, here's the bright spot. Our 40th class reunion was held on the Saturday before that, and a fair number of our classmates that live in the area made it in there to help clean up. I think she felt like she lost all of her trees, but I think a little bit of it is savable, and that's what she does because she has no power.
Oh,
I bet.
So, let me get.
As anyone who lived around here in 2007 during the ice storm knows, it doesn't take many of those branches coming down to snap or bring down power lines or power poles, and people's power starts blinking out.
oh yeah.
So one of the real difficult things is the corn crop is right at that point where it's kind of the most vulnerable to storms. If you were to walk out into one of the cornfields up around where my dad's farm, you would get in there a little ways, and it's taller. It's twice as tall as you as a person.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, and these are steel grain storage bins. They're pretty much sitting there empty, so they don't have a lot of strength to them when it comes to wind.
To them when they're empty.
Right. And
Gotcha.
this is kind of what takes place. They collapse. Now, couldn't come at a worst possible time, because for one, a lot of these have to be manufactured to size. They aren't one size fits all. And there's going to be harvest coming up in, I think Scott usually starts about the third week of September. So right
What
at,
are they going to put the corn in?
yeah, they don't really have a place for it. That may not necessarily be something that is, honestly, these guys are pretty resilient. They'll come up with answers. Anyway, this is.
Do you have photos of the corn damage?
In this gallery that I've got, should show some of it.
I've got some before the crops got hit, if you like.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and share what you've got, we'll.
So this was the drive-through on, and there's a lot of soybeans in here too, but this was Sunday, heading back to Missouri, and just beautiful to see those cornfields the way they were. I didn't share, did I?
Nope.
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah, let me see. Okay. Here we go.
Oh wow.
You can see that corn is 12 to 14 foot tall.
I'm not
You
seeing
really
your
don't
share.
get a perspective. Not seeing the share.
Nope.
I see it on Skype on my end.
I'm seeing it.
I see it
Yeah,
on
my Skype isn't.
but I don't see it on the
Live stream.
I think it took a moment to get in there.
Yeah, sometimes
So-
it does.
That was just a little of what we were seeing coming home. So
I like the bridge. That's something we don't do down here, covered bridges.
We've stopped two.
Cool.
You've got those on your page, dear?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Because it's not making it to the live
To
stream,
YouTube.
and I'm sure everybody wants to see. Is it your photography page or is it your...
Both. Probably easier on my main page to find them. I can do that.
Okay, hang on. We just have a glitch.
So while I'm headed down that path, let me share with you an image that
So the big problem was taking pictures of barns while you're up there because the corn's so tall. You can see the roof.
What I found this interesting. If you can see this, this is the wrong one.
Oh, it's not sharing.
I'm
Not
seeing
showing.
it.
You're seeing it?
On-
Yeah, I'm just not seeing
Yeah,
it on
I'm
mine
seeing
at all.
it through Skype. Just
This
I'm
is
not
the one I
sure
was
if it's
after.
on the live
So this photo here, it should be sharing.
Yeah, it's showing through Skype, but it's not showing on the actual live stream.
Right.
Well, I was going to show the satellite view of the corn damage.
Oh, I can get that one. Hang on.
Yeah, that's on my page too. If I'm not sharing, I'll back out and let you find stuff on my page.
Yeah, it just, for some reason, it's not bringing it up, but I can see it on...
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So right across the middle of the stage, you see the lighter patches that are kind of streaked. That's all corn now laying down in the fields.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
So, what, having been a corn farmer back in the day, when it gets to this stage in life, if it gets blown over, it's one of two things will happen. Either it'll tip over from the roots, or it will break the stalk. And either way, it cannot straighten back up again. And the problem that we have is the way that it's harvested. I don't know if I could find a picture of the corn, of a corn head.
It's got to be up and straight up and down.
Well, it has to have some bit of straight up and down to it
Gotcha.
in order for it to go into the harvester.
Like, most of our produce now, it's picked by machine. If the product's not in the right position whenever the machine goes through, it either doesn't pick it at all or it tries to pick it and mangles it, and then you've got lost produce.
Yeah, and a lot of what is out there on the farm, and you can kind of see in the picture there, the corn head is sitting down on what looks like corn stubble, corn trash on the ground. A lot of that corn that I saw in the damaged pictures is about that low. So you can tell those snouts that stick out can't lift those up in order to get... And the other thing is of course, the ears of corn are now laying on the ground, which will cause them to rot.
Mm-hmm.
And so... I'm not going to say right now. I'll have to kind of keep an eye on what a lot of the insurance is paying out, because they have federal crop insurance.
Yeah.
But I'm going to bet most of the damage is going to be 100% lost. They're just going to plow it under, and we'll just be in the big picture of that grain available, just none, just gone.
Well, and not only is it going to affect food consumption, it's going to affect grain and food for livestock, but also a certain amount of that is also going to not be there for ethanol production. So
Right.
we'll probably see a nice little bump in gas prices this
And
fall.
look at all the things that soybeans are in. So,
Yeah,
including fuel.
true. Soybeans are used a lot in biodiesel.
So, one of the things that we observed up there was that they had not had a lot of rain.
Oh gosh.
Northeast Iowa, their rain was very low. The river that runs right through my dad's property was as low as it gets generally.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see trees that have been uprooted out of the ground, it's not like they've had all kinds of rain to soften the dirt up. This stuff was hard like concrete, and it still tipped them up over.
Yeah, that last picture that you showed, that was a pretty good sized clod of dirt still attached to those roots.
And of course, you know, when a limb comes in through your house and siding gets torn off, that's pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
But of course, that can be fixed. Now this is probably one of the most interesting pictures in this reel. This is the remnants of a grain bin that got ripped off the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a barn. Well, I'll go back here. Of course, that's a barn. And the roof is laying there along the road. Somebody posted in Iowa Through the Lens the original barn picture, because that was one of their favorite spots to shoot sunsets against, you know, because it was a pretty neat little barn. And there is the grain bin up against the house. That was picked up, thrown across the road, and landed on the house.
Oh man.
You know, that's what a lot of it looks like. It's down, pretty flat. That kind of, my visited a buddy. His name's Jim. We kind of went to high school together and caused trouble together. And where he's living now kind of looks like that, just flat, real smooth.
Oh, he got hit too. I've got pictures
No, they
of what
didn't.
it looked like.
North of Cedar Rapids did not really get the damage.
So I've got pictures of his field. Huge, actually.
That's interesting. That's a harvest store, grain
Ooh.
silage storage. And if they're empty, they're
There's a
just a tin
church.
can. Just
That's a huge tree. And that silo's bent over. Wow.
so kinda, let me see here. I've got other things, I think. Patty, what was that picture that you had?
I have a picture of Jim's field in contrast to what you were showing with it on the ground.
Is it on Facebook?
No. Well, it might be. Let's see if that'll come up. My computer's being flaky. Do you see a tractor?
I see a
see a
tractor
tractor.
through Skype.
I see a tractor on Skype, but not on the live.
But not on the
That's
live
right.
stream.
Right.
Okay.
That means that my Skype is the only one not getting it.
I think
Awesome.
we're having a little issue with bandwidth. So you'll have to share from my page.
It also could be a setting in Skype because Skype updated earlier.
It did.
Yeah, and see,
It did. I see a
So-
rant coming on.
Sometime
Oh,
around last Thursday, I think I either got a Skype update or they did something with the Logitech headsets because, I was having trouble last Thursday. And I thought I had it fixed this morning and I had trouble and it's working. It's just I have to do things differently now to set up the headset than what I had to do before. It's weird.
Yeah, I don't see. I don't see anything. It's probably Skype for Linux. That's the one difference. But anyway, just kind of not worry about it right now. I mean, you guys kind of got an idea of what we have, what we seen up there, and it was pretty devastating. And I'm hearing a lot of folks that are posting that they're exhausted, and I believe it, because not only did we have all the damage, now you got heat back again. We were 88 today here. It was pretty warm up north, and so kind of tough story for those guys, and I hope that it turns out to be a silver lining in the end, but it's going to be a ways before they're back.
True.
So that's, I guess, unless you guys got more to share about what took place up there, any information I missed.
Is there any way we can see a loop of what the Derecho looked like as it was going across?
There is a photo on Spotter Network.
Okay.
If someone can pull that up, it shows the entire loop of the life of it in one snap. That would be great to show.
I'm kind of
Is it on the
curious. I've got
website? Or-
It's on Spotter Network on Facebook.
Yeah, I can try to find it and share it with my screen, I guess.
wait a minute, I think I have it.
Cool.
Aha. This is a weird picture, but it is. This has the timing of the storm. It started at 8 a.m. off in South Dakota, and by 2 o'clock it was across the state. At 2 o'clock, Patty, you and I were. What were we?
We were at the not the the Union Bridge.
Right. And we had no clue until we got out on the road and that was, it looked to us, because you could see for 100 miles up there.
Mhm.
It looked like a little storm, she'd drive through the storm, we'd be done. Ah,
Just kept going and going and going.
yeah. Yeah. So that is courtesy of National Weather Service Chicago.
It's crazy
Yeah,
that it went through all those states.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was, and my day may be incorrect on this. I'm still a little confused on days in the last week, but I think it was Tuesday morning. I had woke up and they were talking about it on the early morning news on KY3. And Brandon Beck was talking about, there's a phenomenon, lots of wind, heavy rain, and everything. And I'm like thinking, I've heard this at an IWT meeting before. I'm like, is it a derecho? And then he says, it's a derecho. And I'm like, oh, okay. They even specifically mentioned the one, is it 2 years ago now, the one that was involved with the duck boats?
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
In July here. We had one that caused more damage in, was that 2014? I can't remember. It was in May. We had 100-mile-an-hour winds, and if I recall, there were 4 tornadoes that spawned out of it locally. Chicago, with this one, had 7 confirmed the last I saw. So these storms can and do, because they're severe, produce tornadoes as well. But the major damage is the wind, because it goes for miles. We saw that also earlier this year up at Lebanon, where it was a wide swath of 90-mile-an-hour winds just doing devastation.
Yeah, and I think some people were even reporting it was like a EF0, EF1 tornado, and when the National Weather Service completed all their surveys and everything, they said, no, it's 90-mile-per-hour straight line winds.
Tornadoes are not 6 miles wide. They are not 50 miles wide. They are not, they don't do damage to 100,000 acres of crops.
No, there probably was some little mini tornadoes spun up by this thing. As we've discussed in the past, any kind of linear event, there's the possibility that you're going to have embedded tornadoes in it. However,
fun fact, if you can see my background, that is an Amish lawnmower. They had a whole bunch of them. They had a whole bunch of horses tied out in the ditches, eating down the brush and the grasses there. So, yeah, Amish lawnmower.
Amish lawnmower.
I will say this for the Amish community, especially there, I guess it's near the Union Covered Bridge, and that's south and east of Clark, Missouri, or Moberly. Every one of them waved at us when we went by in the truck. They all stopped and waved.
I've not been through Seymour or a lot of Douglas County very much, but anytime that I've ever seen any Amish people along 60 or one of, like the county roads, they always wave. They are always polite. All the ones I've ever seen, they stick to the side of the road, or if it's, like one of the county roads where they've got like a designated lane just for buggies, they'll stick to that. But I've never seen any of them be rude. And of course, whenever I worked at Bass Pro, you would not think this, but we dealt with Amish and Mennonite customers all the time, and they were never rude.
What really what blew my mind one day is when I was working in, in the Walmart at the time, and I had an Amish come in, and he asked for a cigarette lighter adapter, and I'm sorry, but I had to ask. I said, "Are we talking horsepower or what?" And the guy came back without a miss and said, "Where else do you think I'll plug it in?" And I'm just, oh my.
The one that shocked me was because I knew, Mennonites are a little bit less restrictive, I think, on some of their traditional stuff than Amish are, but I think some of the Amish people have loosened some of those up now. I know at one time, I'd always heard, well, if they drive a car, they're probably Mennonites. Most of the Amish still do horse and buggies. Mm-hmm. We had a few come over to package pickup, and I was like, okay, picking up a tree stand or a deer target or something. Okay, I would think that, but okay. What got me was the black Ford minivan that, like, about 3 or 4, I'd say young Mennonites, probably in their mid-20s, guys, and then 2 or 3 girls, get out, and as they're walking in with their pickup slip to get their tree stand, one of them is talking on a cell phone. Now, note, it is a black cell phone, so they're good on the color. I'm just like thinking to myself, I know sometimes some of them for business only now will have like a community phone. Or one person will have a phone at their house that the whole community can use, but you never use it for social calls. You use it for business only. And I was kind of like, that's interesting that now they're using cell phones.
Well, I had an Amish come in not even a week ago when I was working in Marshfield and replaced two of his home phone things. And I asked him how he powered them. He used an inverter with a solar. So he basically kept them charged through the day, and yeah.
Because I know used to a lot of the Amish and Mennonite homes that had electricity, they had wind generators. So that's why a lot of them always used to have, like the wind tower with the propeller at the top, because that was their generator for their essential stuff that they needed to have electricity for. But that's interesting that they're making a jump to a technology that's really in the last 20 or 30 years has really matured and is not what it once was.
Well, they
but we're
also
still
have
kind of
they also have funds for emergencies.
yeah.
Amish will seek out medical care, and it's not prudent to take someone with a heart attack in a horse and buggy. You call for an ambulance.
Yeah.
So, and they will do so. So having a phone is vital for emergency purposes.
It really
They
is.
also have farm accidents, just like anybody else.
Oh, yeah.
So
So, guys,
And just like any group, there's some people in one group that fall to a particular side of the middle ground, and then most everyone else is somewhere in between.
so what I've got is the Met Office from London, and I don't know how their weather warnings equate to ours, but basically the southern half of England is under a thunderstorm advisory. I think that's what we would call it.
Well, we've currently got a thunderstorm here in Hampshire. It's literally lightning, thunder, rain. It's coming down quite hard at the moment.
Right. And as you can see from the radar, it's definitely doing that. So it looks like, Kieran, you're in for that for the next. Looks like they have a yellow warning for, which would be today for you, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. With
Yep.
highs around 25, 24 degrees C. And for those of us used to Fahrenheit, that's about 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So
It's
around
very hot for the
0700,
UK.
he's going to have 70% chance of precipitation in that area, which is like 3 hours or 4 hours from now.
Yeah.
We're at 2:33 a.m. here.
Yeah. So maybe I'm a little off there, but.
It's not quite that late yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's courtesy of the Met Office. And I'm slowly getting it figured out what they do on their webpage.
Well,
Yeah, I think
and,
we do things a little bit differently.
and also speaking about the derecho that we had here in the United States, They also up in Scotland, they had a major landslide that derailed a train. Last that I had heard, they were thinking it was due to heavy rain that had been in the area in recent days. And I know there was some people that unfortunately lost their lives, and other people that were hurt. And so that's kind of something, weather related over in the UK. We can kind of compare to, kind of what would happen over here if we want to. I kind of wonder. I know from what I had heard. Again, my details might be a little spotty on it. I had heard one person say something about approximately almost a month's worth of rainfall in a few days.
Oh my
Does that
Yep.
kind of sound accurate?
That sounds about right. I know past few days we've had, I think it's either 1 or 2 months worth of rain. It's been quite bad the past couple of days.
Now, does the Met Office there do they issue any kind of like flash flood warning or advisories, or do they do like an aerial that's not necessarily for a specific flash flood area, but might be for a larger area for a longer period of time?
Honestly, then they can do that, and they do try. They're very. I don't know if it's because I know they're government funded, but they just don't seem to be very accurate, and they don't seem to be very quick on the mark. Like, they'll say that it's flooding, it's, you've got a warning for flooding, and, the flood is already up to your, elbows or something, and it's
Gotcha.
like,
See, I'm wondering if
I
maybe
realised that already.
I'm wondering if it's maybe a little bit, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but a little bit of lack of experience, because I know I was quite shocked, and a large part of it is just your position on the planet. But I was very shocked to find out that the UK, and in fact a lot of even mainland Europe, just does not get the severe weather like we do here in the United States.
So I've got
No.
a page for comparison. I think the humidity we would feel quite at home with over there. It looks like you guys are in that 86 to 90% humidity range. This is what we got going right now. 29C. Humidity is much lower at 59%.
But see, anymore with me, it seems like that lower humidity, I do better even in temperatures that historically I've not done well in. And that just kind of makes me think that I don't think I cool off like I used to.
Yeah, we're gonna hit 30C Saturday at 92 Fahrenheit.
So, in contrast, one of our local meteorologists is saying we have a long-range forecast calling for cooler weather to begin arriving on Sunday. It may stick around for more than a week. Has us so we have a much colder than normal outlook, but it's also a very dry weather pattern where they've been getting all this rain in Great Britain. So far at our National Weather Service office here, we've had less than 0.2 of an inch of rain for the month of August, and we're on track to be one of the top 5 driest Augusts on record.
Yeah, because we usually have quite a few storms in August.
We can. It really varies. We can be extremely hot and dry, or we can be very
Well,
wet.
true.
So the thing is, if you laid England, Scotland, and Ireland on where we are, it basically would go from Arkansas to Iowa north. and the Mississippi River out to about mid-Kansas. However, and I could kind of feel the pain of not being able to get the weather right. You have a big ocean current coming in that affects it.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
they've never had good luck. I mean, honestly, they talked about weather being a big thing during the D-Day invasion, that they just couldn't figure out what was going to happen for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the funniest times as well, where they say, "Oh, it's bright and sunshine," and all of this lot on the news, and then I'm looking out the window and thinking, "Yeah, okay." Where it's all starting to pour up with water on the driveway, and it's still pouring down. It's like, did you
That-
look
that-
out
that-
the
that
window when
reminds-
you aired this?
That reminds me of a certain something that Rodney, Patty, and Steve will know, that, it's pouring out rain, thundering, and we're running a Skywarn net, and you hear sunny and 75 degrees.
No, I want to turn that thing off during nets. I really do.
I don't like the sound of the voice. I like
Well, it does that
ours
right after
better.
you read a tornado warning. That's what's even worse.
Right.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of that sunny and 72 degrees. And I'm like, you just had a tornado warning read. What the heck?
Do we listen to the computer voice or the human voice?
Right.
So I got a question, I guess. Is Skywarn kind of a just United States thing, or is Skywarn kind of like all around? Do they have a Skywarn in that area?
Not in.
Well, I've never heard of them until I met you.
There you go.
There's one in Canada and one in Germany.
There is one in Germany.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think in Italy.
See, I hadn't heard about Italy. Yeah, and I think the one in Canada, I may be wrong. I don't think it is called Skywarn, but it does the same thing as Skywarn.
Can warn.
Canwarn, yeah. And then the one in Germany is actually called Skywarn, isn't it?
Now, don't think, Kieran, that you're absolutely no chance of having a tornado in England, because they've happened. It's
Well, yes, they have.
very rare.
It's very rare, but definitely not impossible.
Yep. And I guess with this storm, a lot of my friends and acquaintances in Iowa do not understand this whole derecho thing. They have no clue. They are about 5 times less likely to have them than we are here. We have little mini ones all the time. This was an event that rarely ever happens in Iowa like that.
And interesting note, the Storm Prediction Center actually used the term long tracking derecho in the outlook for that day.
Cool.
And they were talking about 100-mile-an-hour winds. So, it breaks my heart for people that got hurt and some dead. If they don't understand, it's not just a severe thunderstorm warning. It is a thunderstorm warning, and it can be dangerous.
And I think, at least here locally in Southwest Missouri, I think the local weather community, National Weather Service, television media, radio stations, and there's a ton more people that go into it. That's part of what the IWT meetings that me and Patty go to are. But there's so many people in the last 20, 30 years here that have tried to, I guess, reform Southwest Missouri into realizing, okay, it's not just a severe thunderstorm. Yes, if I see or hear the lightning, even if I count to 10, I'm still can be hit. Don't wait till I hear the tornado siren to seek shelter, because that may be too late. the whole turn around, don't drown. I know sometimes it almost gets pushed to the point of almost cliche, but you kind of almost want it to that point so that it's so ingrained that everyone thinks about it. Well, I could just, go through it and move this, but I better not. I better just go another way.
So there's another thing that is way different in northeast Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
The soil there is very different than here. It is.
Oh, sure.
Well, to give you an example, we had some old buildings on my dad's farm that they were built in the 20s and they had outlived their usefulness, and so we were taking them all down. We had a track backhoe in there that could dig to 32 feet. That was as farthest it could dig, and so it dug a hole that deep. And after you got through the 4 or 5 feet worth of black dirt, you hit sand, and it's nothing but sand all the way down. There's people stopping. Hey, can we buy that sand?
That's why I was wondering if it was less rocky, more porous, and maybe less clay.
Much, much more porous. And so the big thing about the storm that blew through up there, it was some very welcome rain for some of the guys up there, for some of the farmers. And, if we got 2 inches of rain here, it would not be, we would have some flash flooding.
Oh, yeah.
Up there, it probably won't even raise the river level because it was dry and it would soak right in.
And just one state over in Oklahoma, they have so much more red clay in a lot of their dirt in a lot of places. It wouldn't even take as much rain runoff here to start flash flooding.
Right.
What causes the flooding here is not just the soil conditions and the greenness of the ripeness of the vegetation, but it is the fact that we've got so many hills and the water channels. And so when you get runoff, it runs off into those channels, and you can almost predict what areas are going to flood.
Yeah, they've mentioned it many times at the IWT meetings, the topography of the land, and that just kind of means the shape. And like Patty said, do you have a bunch of hills that lead down to a low-lying area? Well, if rain falls on that hill, which side is the rain going to roll off on? Is it going to roll off that way, or is it going to roll into this valley, and then this one rolls into this valley, and it just pools and pools and pools because it has nowhere else to go? Basically, this is very similar to how we make man-made lakes. Whenever we dam a river and we restrict the flow of the river, it has nowhere else to go, so it just pools and rises and rises and rises. Well, with a flash flood in these low-lying areas, this kind of same thing is happening on a much smaller scale.
So I'm going to make an admission in the great YouTube live to the world. I did not know some things about where I grew up. And you should know about where you grew up, but there was something that escaped my knowledge living there almost 20 years. We went to a little community called Stone City, and its claim to fame is an artist named Grant Wood. Patty, if she's gone.
I'm here. I'm trying to swallow pills, and I didn't think it was very pretty.
All right. Well, if you know of the painting called American Gothic, the house that was the backdrop to that painting is still in Stone City. We took pictures of it.
Really? Interesting. I knew I'd heard the name before, but I just couldn't place it. But being associated with American Gothic, that would be where.
Right. So, it's in a big, deep river valley, and there's stone exposed there, so that gave it its name. And in Iowa, when you got a place where stone's exposed, there's usually a quarry there because you don't see that very often.
Gotcha.
So we were visiting my friend who lived just north of Stone City, about 15 miles maybe. And we came out on a road called Pennington Ridge Road, and I'm thinking, this looks like the Ozarks. There's the house.
Ooh, okay.
It's just a facade now. The old house is gone, but that's the
Gotcha.
original. And we got a shot of it, so Patty and I can do a picture of us in front of it with a pitchfork. I've got the pitchfork.
I was going to ask, is it going to be a real or digital pitchfork?
It'll be a real. I got a real pitchfork, but we're on a ridge that's maybe 300 feet high, and it was created by glaciers. And from the top of that ridge, you can see 25 miles. I mean, it's just,
Like that.
there's spots out there it's just like, holy crap, you can really see a long ways out there. But the topography in that area is real big, gentle rolling hills, and a lot of it created by a glaciation where the glacier stopped there. Iowa is not flat, despite what some RAGBRAI people think.
You mean it's not Kansas or Oklahoma?
Well, Kansas ain't flat either, and honestly, if you want evidence of that, just go to the Flint Hills. But so you got big watersheds, and they run, compared to here, we might have one little tiny valley that's a couple of acres, where they have thousands of acres that all drain into one spot.
Gotcha.
And it's just, it's kind of amazing that I did a little bit of research on it, and honestly, it's hard to read geological studies.
Yeah.
But it's kind of amazing how much different it is. We do not have that here, the glaciation. It didn't happen here.
So I'm thinking that the only thing that we would have down here as far as a size of watershed, not the glaciation, but as far as size of watershed, would be something like a large lake like Table Rock or Lake of the Ozarks.
Right. Major rivers, as opposed to Iowa is just diagonally crossed with one smallish river after the next. And
Gotcha.
It just, I don't know, kind of amazing. She's got the picture of the church, St. Joseph's Church. That is, oh my. That was built from stone right there, quarried right there. It was one of the only buildings that was built by an actual architect.
So that is actually a church.
Yes.
It's now an oratory. The Catholic Church has decided to upkeep it, that there are no services held there.
I was going to say it almost looks like a manor home. So I was thinking it was a private residence. I see.
It looks like a manor home, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just gorgeous with those rolling hills and.
You need to show them the barn.
I need to. So this is a home. They have taken some of these old buildings and they are restoring them into homes.
Yeah, I know in some parts of the country back in the late 80s, whenever I was really huge into PBS and I watched this old house and cooking shows instead of cartoons Saturday morning, I know it was real popular, I think particularly up in New England, to take a lot of old barns and stuff and convert them over into homes.
That's a barn.
This was a horse barn.
That is amazing.
I bet.
You're living better than I am.
popular over here as well now. They're turning older buildings into homes like barns and all sorts of other things.
Well, and also over in the UK, you guys have just probably got this rich abundance of these old structures that maybe are abandoned. Maybe people own them, but they don't really know what to do with them. And they have, not to say America doesn't have a rich history of its own, but the history of England and Europe goes back so much further. You probably almost literally could not swing a cat and not hit something that had at least some kind of slight minor historical significance at one point or another.
Exactly.
I don't know what that means.
We do.
But slinging a cat. Wow.
That's actually an English term.
You take the cat by the tail.
I get
Rodney,
it.
do not try this. No, whatever you do not try this at home.
Great, great.
I got 4 I can try from.
Oh God.
So I will be the first to tell you that, of course, we do not have the architecture that Kieran could drive a short distance and see in London, but
I hopped in my car right now. There's an actual town that's about 5 minutes away from me, and everything in it is old thatched roof, like Tudor time buildings.
Yeah.
It is lovely.
I bet.
Well, we weren't discovered yet in the Tudor times. This 1897 date on the old general store in Stone City is, I don't think, is it the oldest?
The oldest building there, I think I think the oratory was. Of what was left. There was an old theater that got torn down mostly. I did get one photo of what was left.
I didn't get a lot
but
of
not
pictures.
much. Yeah.
There.
That
was,
is an amazing barn.
Yeah. I just I had no idea. I'd never been in that town, in that little place. And actually, I think when I was a teenager living there, I'd been to Anamosa, which is close to there. I had seen the Iowa State Penitentiary, which looks like the barn. It's the same stone.
Oh, nice.
They had an art festival, and it just I never went. So here's the odd thing: Patty and I will seek out these crazy things like this, having husky moments. Now I've got another one because one of the artists that used this town as art, where he taught artists, he did it for 2 summers. We've got one here in Missouri. Help me out, Patty. What's his name? From Neosho.
Yeah. I can't call it.
Thomas Hart Benton.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
He was one of 3 that kind of fit in with Grant Wood, and there's another one from Kansas.
See, I guess I didn't realize he had an association with Southwest Missouri.
Well, Thomas Hart Benton was from Neosho.
Didn't realize that.
So Grant Wood, who did the famous photo of the old couple with the pitchfork, actually started an artist colony in this little town of Stone City, where he did some teaching and got a lot of his inspiration. I was always under the assumption he was from Anamosa, and that's where he did most of his work.
Mm-hmm.
But found out differently.
Well, I think he grew up in the area, and all that stuff's real close. We were so close to Anamosa that we probably should have went, but we were on a bit of a time schedule that day, and had to go visit my friend before we went to see my parents, and then went to the reunion on the same day. But it was quite the adventure, and I'm gonna tell you, I have mixed emotions about. It'd have been something to see that storm. I'm not sure I would want to be in it.
That's what I was
I can
talking
understand
about,
that.
Franklin. When you said you hope we saw storms, I said not this one. No. We were just glad to get out of what we were in of it, and like I said, if I could share, I would show you the radar picture of this finger the storm shot out ahead of us. It was like it was grabbing us in and holding us.
Send it to me on
It
Messenger,
was just bizarre.
Patty.
And then I'm doing it.
Okay.
And then we got into the Lake of the Ozarks area. We weren't even going to go that way because of the storms. And this other storm popped up, and it was trying to chase us. It changed directions to chase us. There you go.
Now, if you'd not came back through Lake of the Ozarks, which way were you going to come back? 13?
We generally come back through Buffalo, and with this
So
popping
65.
up, yeah.
See, I always
So
get
the
Buffalo
blue
and
dot is where
stuff.
we were, and at the point we were at that, we should have been almost through the storms. I actually took. Let me send you one more. This is what it looked like before we went through that area.
Ooh,
Wow.
It
That's
just
quite a difference.
exploded.
It did. It exploded on top of us. So we weren't chasing storms. Storms were chasing us, and it was quite the day.
I
See,
had
it didn't
this.
want you to leave. That was the problem.
Say that again.
It didn't want you to leave. That was the problem.
I think
I guess.
we were at
No,
that
it's-
bridge, and if we would have made the choice to go south on 15, which is kind of a little nowhere road, and headed towards the river, it's possible we might have missed it. But
No,
I'm
it
not
would
sure.
have caught up with us. It was moving east, and we had chosen. We originally were going to go on the back roads, and I saw this thing coming in and decided we were probably better off on wider roads to go through it. And it just exploded when we got on 63. So.
I would have probably done the same thing. You've got probably wider, better roads, better maintained, and we've talked about this a few different times. Unfortunately, not every county in the country can have the famous Greene County blacktop.
Oh, we.
Yeah.
Oh, you wouldn't believe it. My truck was white with limestone dust from the gravel roads
Oh.
up there.
I can believe it whenever here, what was it, 2 or 3 months ago, we had to help my grandma take some stuff of my cousin's to Seymour. Oh, I could kill my cousin. My phone was telling me, go back the way we came, go back the way we came. I swear, of the probably 5.5 miles it took us to get to 60, 4 to 4.5 of it was the worst, most god-awfulest gravel road I've ever been on, and I was driving.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Hey, you should see some of the roads that I drive on.
Narrow
Hey,
and crooked.
I have watched Britcoms. I know how those little narrow, little country roads can get.
Okay, well, you know those country roads then. Now think of them as being completely mud, rutted, and old tractors being driven up and down them all day long.
Oh,
And I'm in this little Range Rover in off-road mode, but with standard road tires.
See, we're generally lucky in the county that Springfield is in, because sometime back, one of either the local or the state politicians, I believe it was, secured funding to pretty much have just about every county road blacktopped. So
Yeah.
we have not very many dirt roads in Greene County, and then you go to one of the surrounding counties like Webster, Douglas, Lawrence, Laclede, and then you're like, can I bring the blacktop with us?
Mm-hmm.
This shot of the extreme rain, that actually looks better than what I was seeing.
The camera was seeing the road much better than we were. And I even commented on that. This is 4 o'clock in the afternoon and all the lights are on. That's what that one picture was all the lights were on. It was so dark. And there was one point where I held the phone up so I could see the traffic and let him know if he was getting too close to the cars ahead, because you could not see the tail lights.
I have unfortunately been in rain like that, and I just usually, I'll safely get to a point where I can pull over, and I'm just like, headlights on, flashers on, and this can wait until it lets up.
Yeah, you gotta know your limits. There's no reason to be driving in, no one's in that big of a hurry.
If I
Right.
can't see what is 2 feet in front of the hood, I pull over. I
Oh.
probably should earlier than that, but I'm just
Well-
like, if I can't see what's in front of me, I'm finding a spot and I'm pulling over.
It wasn't safe to pull over, so
Yeah.
we basically did that until we could find an off ramp
Oh yeah, yeah,
and get him a
gotta,
break.
you've got to wait till you can do it safely.
Right. So, an interesting note, we're talking about flooding. The National Severe Storms Laboratory has been working on a project, and I have to wonder if locally our flood research is tied into this. It's a multi-radar, multi-sensor system developed to produce severe weather and precipitation products for improved decision-making capability to improve severe weather forecasts and warnings, hydrology, aviation, and numerical weather predictions. This popped up in my just dancing around the internet today, and it's quite fascinating, and I don't know that there's enough information out there to really do it justice, but it would be maybe worth a few minutes in the future to talk about.
And sounds like something that would be really up Doug Kramer's alley, because
Yeah.
he's really big into the flooding.
He's mapping our counties for flood-prone areas and getting an idea of how much rain under what conditions creates flooding in different spots, and quite extensive. Several spotters are assisting him in counties that they don't have a good database for.
Yeah, and he's taken data from, I think, just about anyone: weather spotters, law enforcement, emergency management, highway department, local, county and
Fire.
city civil government officials and stuff like that. Pretty much, if you've got reliable data, he's taken it.
He will actually, if you volunteer, he will, or put information out there, he will hit you up to go out when it's raining to give him reports, send pictures back.
I don't know.
And I kind
if
of
I
also
would.
wonder how much this might be something that would be of interest with Ron Hurst, because I was quite surprised to find out about his dad's involvement at one of the previous IWT meetings that we had at the Emergency Operations Center, that his dad had tried to get some research going up in St. Louis for rain gauges for rivers and streams and stuff.
That is very interesting. That may have been the one I missed.
Well, we did visit a little, I'm going to call it a bit of a tourist trap.
You went to Eureka Springs?
No, it's in Iowa. It's called the Amana Colonies. And they was a German community, not all that much different than Herman is,
Gotcha.
but probably more like a communal farming sort of an arrangement. And it was kind of fun. Although I think their big thing is, I know if Patty, you noticed there was probably 5 or 6 different what they call family style restaurants where you could go and eat German food. That was kind of fun, kind of interesting. I didn't get a lot of pictures there. I don't know. It just didn't happen.
That would be something that I would be interested in, because I don't know that I've really had that much actual authentic German food other than, bratwurst, sauerkraut, and anything that throws potatoes in with it.
That's good stuff.
We had oh, I can't
See what my
say her-
grandparents
can't
always
say her
like
name.
to do.
Jeff's wife's German potato salad, which I
Yeah,
find good because it's
Judith.
warm, not cold.
Yeah, and the first time that I tried it, I was like, I'm not gonna like this. It's hot, but it is very, very good.
It is like the staple
Yeah.
that event. I'm
What
gonna
my
mix it.
grandparents used to always like to do was take country-style ribs and sauerkraut and usually potatoes and sometimes onions and cook that all together in a big pot.
That sounds nice.
It was,
Good
and
stuff.
I really like country-style ribs, which are actually not ribs at all, I learned. They're actually cut from, I think, the loin, but they're kind of rib-shaped roughly, so that's why they call them country-style ribs.
This was a corn crib that they made into the visitors center.
Cool.
That's a pretty cool building.
Yeah. It was amazing inside. It was reconstructed inside with wood from trees that school children had planted for harvest. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
All I
And-
remember about it is I remember hearing the ads about the Hog's Head, and that you could go there and get like home style dining.
So, there are quite a number of artists in the colony. and this gentleman does copper work.
Mm.
This guy was as tall as I am. It was quite cool. I did
What's
wind
it
up
supposed
buying
to
something
be?
for the
All,
yard.
all I can see is it
Feed me,
saying,
Seymour. Feed
"Feed
me.
me."
It looks like it's about ready to eat your head.
He had a couple of those out there in his little copper sales place. And I was like, this is just too cool.
Feed me, Seymour. Oh, cool.
Is
Is
that-
that not cool?
That was with copper?
Yeah.
That was with copper.
Yep.
You can really see it in the wings, around the edges and stuff. I'd say you probably colored it and stuff, but the
If you
wings
don't like
and the eyes,
spiders, don't look at the next one.
Oh, jeez.
This is your
spiders.
chance to turn your head away in 3, 2, 1.
So basically, if you're Ron Weasley,
Burn it. Burn it.
That thing was probably 8 foot across.
That
As
makes
everyone's
Granddaddy
now just
Longlegs
running
look
away from
like
their
a-
computer screen.
And here was
Eight.
another building that had been made into a home that we keep sliding out of the way here. But that was pretty cool. There are 7 colonies to the Amana colony, and we just went through 2 of them.
They're doing this thing called the scenic byway, and there's like a loop that I think it was Iowa 220 that you could take on a big loop and see all this. And it's like now everybody has a winery or a brewery.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the
So
thing.
you
there.
look for this sign in Iowa for the scenic byways, and it'll give the name of the byway. And it's prettier than you think. Some places really look like the Ozarks.
Steve, didn't you know that this year alcoholic businesses are this year's family style restaurants?
Yeah, I believe it. Now, I will tell you, our experiences up in Iowa as far as like the quarantine, you almost didn't know it was around in some places because
And there were a lot of places we went. We were the only ones with masks on.
Well, but up around there, a lot of places they probably have the distance to kind of spread out, don't they?
Well, that and very few cases. So Buchanan County had what? A total of 6?
yeah. I mean, quite honestly, you'd have to meet like 530 people before you'd run into somebody who'd had been exposed to it. And the county's only got like 8,000 people in it, so
Gotcha.
you know, it's kind of like down
So
here.
We're talking a county the size of Marshfield.
Right. And I'm gonna say, I went down and talked to George down at Gay Parita and kind of made arrangements for our Route 66 on the air event. And he agreed with me, you know, most of us here, we social distance anyway. We've always done it that way. It wasn't like we had to make a big change. And, you know, especially the farmers, you know, you got 2 farmers together talking, we're separated by a pickup bed generally.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I just think it's kind of, even though I guess technically Springfield is a big city if you want to judge it from the standpoint that it's the size of, you know, like a suburb for LA or New York or Chicago, but we still very much have that small town feel. and we've got a whole lot of small towns and communities all around Springfield.
Yeah, and say it was the same up there. I mean, my little hometown of 523 people, they've not had one case of COVID. Not one. So, I think the big thing was our class reunion. So they, but still, that was all locals. I don't think anybody really, except me, was the only one that traveled any distance.
That came in from out of town.
Right. So everybody else is from there. They're kind of like us. We're all exposed to each other all the time anyway, so not a whole lot of worry. Then we throw Jordan in the mix, and it's his fault for almost all of our problems. So I did speak with Jordan last night. I didn't take a close look into the shed, but it looks like he's going to have air conditioning in there in the next couple weeks. Our big event, George was all like very cool with us coming out, and I told him, I said, we're going to do it like we did previously, and we're not going to be in the way. He goes, you're not in the way, not like that. So we're good to go for the weekend, first weekend, and then if Jordan gets all of his stuff done, we're good to go for a big tech day and operating from his garage.
That's gonna be fun.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I could see might be an issue is we got to probably come up. Well, if he's got air conditioning, it's not going to matter. I'm going to park the trailer and set up my vertical, and we'll have all we need. But if he doesn't have air, we got to probably come up with a way to shade that front door so we aren't in the direct sunlight.
Yeah, he'll have air. I guarantee it. He'll make a way.
Talk about spoiled.
He will probably have air if he has to carry the AC unit in on his back.
Well, there's AC already in it. It's just not adequate.
Gotcha.
Not up to his high standards.
But yeah, he can't,
Can't hang beef in there like
Yeah, that's
like
what I was gonna
I
say.
can.
Yeah.
Or
If it has to pass the Franklin test.
he's got to be able to...
Well, you've noticed all night. I've had an Afghan wrapped around me.
Yeah, I know you're not feeling well.
Well, it's just I've been cold. This started a little bit before then, but I just I don't know if you noticed whenever you guys helped move, the air conditioner vents are in the ceiling. They're not in the floor.
Right.
So my AC vent in this room is right there. It was right over the desk before I moved it. Now, the one side of it blows right at my chair. So I'm in this room, I'm getting a little bit colder more often, but if I turn the AC up where it's comfortable in here, it gets too warm in the rest of the apartment.
So, I'm
Just
thinking...
turn it off in that one room.
What was that, Kieran?
I was going to say, is there a way you can just turn it off in that one room?
I have tried, and I've tried to do this in my room. The vents, they don't budge. I'd say they're probably stuck, because I'd say that whoever first lived in this unit probably never used them. I probably wouldn't be surprised if they had to paint the conduit in the frame, that they may have just painted over it when they built the apartment, so therefore the mechanism is stuck because the paint's dried. If it gets to be that much of an issue, I might have the maintenance guy see if he can do something with it, because my door was sticking in my closet in my bedroom, and he came up and fixed it fine and everything. So if it gets to be that big of an issue, I'll just have the maintenance guy take a look at him.
Fair enough.
So we are at a place in our show tonight called the 5-Minute Rant.
Oh, hold on. Hold up. We
Got-
gotta have our sound effect, right?
Gotta have the right sound effect for that.
All right.
You need to be quicker on the mark, Rodney.
Well, I didn't know he was coming up to it. I thought we were talking about more stuff. So, here is the 5-minute rant. Love that every time.
Man, that sounded awful.
Sound like
So-
Kieran earlier.
I'm going to suggest, since we have a guest with us again tonight, that he gets first go.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to give him at least 35 minutes.
Well, the guideline is 5. It is a guideline.
A guideline.
The guideline is 5, so let's try to keep it to 15.
That's probably more realistic. 'Cause it's not been a good day for me.
Oh boy.
I mean, you guys don't really know that much about it, but Rodney knows that I have a lot of adopted children, and I only have one biologically my child. But today was quite a difficult thing for me because I have very, very difficult problems with crimes against children. It's one of my pet hates. I cannot stand it. But today I was driving to the shop, and there was 6 adult males literally wailing on this kid, beating him up to, I don't even know, he's currently in the ICU unit at the hospital in critical condition. It's took me probably about 20 minutes to get them under control, and 6 other units to get everyone sort of all locked up and trying to work out what actually went on. But it actually turned out that this kid was homeless. He was running away from home because of problems at home, and these 6 guys just didn't like the fact that he was there. There was no, he didn't provoke them. They just sort of started on him, and honestly, it's just I don't actually know what was going through their heads at the time. It's one of those situations that I find very, very difficult, and especially with my line of work, I couldn't do what I wanted to do to them. Yeah, it was very difficult because I had to try and keep myself contained as well, which inside of me was just screaming. Yeah, as I say, it's not really a rant. That's just something that happened to me today, and it's just that's just kind of ruined my whole evening because I've been so. I mean, I was physically to the point where I was shaking with anger. This is even after the whole situation. They got locked up, and I came home. I was still shaking. I was so angry.
Imagine.
As it's the one thing that I can't deal with.
And
I mean, if it was just a fight, I could have, it would have been not nice, but I could have dealt with it quite easily. That's something that happens day in, day out in my line of work. But when they're trying to, because they've been charged with attempted murder at the moment,
Wow.
because of the injuries done to the child. I mean, this child is 6 years old.
6?
Mm.
Oh, poor baby. Oh, I'm so glad that you came across the scene.
Jeez.
better though that he did Because if it were me and I was a cop, I would not be a cop after that. Not
Yeah.
anymore. I would be a convict because I would not have handled it.
It was very close with me. I was very close to snapping on that one.
Not going into details, the teacher who taught psychology and sociology at Hillcrest before she got her teaching certificate, she had been a caseworker with Greene County, and her case that she quit on was a case of child abuse with a father who was having difficulty potty training his child, and she told her boss, said, I'll finish the case, but after that I'm done.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the reason why this kid ran away from home. It was due to problems with family and all of that lot. And we're actually currently looking for the parents at the moment as well, because they've got a few charges coming up as well from what he's been talking about.
Gotcha.
It's a difficult situation. It's lots of things there that, as I said, it's still an ongoing investigation. It's one of those things that only happened probably about an hour or so before we actually started the live stream, as when I got home.
Wow. Do you get a chance at work to debrief after a day like that?
Normally, yes. Currently, no. Due to our call rate at the moment, I mean, we have been working pretty much 24 hours, and it's just been non-stop. I mean, literally call after call after call. We've actually got a backlog of calls at the moment that we're still having to work through from COVID, and then we've had the storms hit, and now we've got this really big backlog of calls. I mean, currently on the 999 dispatch, we've actually got around 4,000 calls that are being archived.
Wow.
As a backlog. And that's just from the past 24-hour period.
Now, I had been wanting to ask a question, and I didn't know whether you had specified it before or Rodney had specified it before. I know you're near London, but not necessarily in London. I was wondering, are you part of the Metropolitan Police Force, or are you part of like a local police force?
No, I'm with Surrey and Hampshire.
Okay.
Not Met.
Gotcha.
We do back them up quite often, but not. That's not the department I'm with.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I was interested, and I'm sure the actual how it actually all works is a lot different. I got really into the George Gently miniseries, and it was just interesting that he goes from starting with working in London with the Metropolitan Police to going to like this, what I guess we would consider like a county sheriff's office, but still kind of yet under the purview of the Metropolitan Police.
Yeah. I mean, that's obviously because it's a TV show that works an awful lot different to how it does in
I'm sure.
real life.
I'm sure.
With real life, there's an awful lot more. Like, from what you're saying, it sounds like he's gone to like a detective, which
Something
is
like
where,
that.
yeah, which is where he's working on cases and trying to do the backstory of the case to find the criminal.
Yeah.
But in real life, that's a detective. That's like CID, crime scene investigation, and that's what it is in real life.
Gotcha. Well, I need to check in with my mom real quick, so I'm going to hop off for just a second, but I will be back here in a few minutes.
Okay.
Well, that's a good rant to start. So Rodney, have you a rant for us this evening?
I don't really have a rant. Obviously I'm adjusting to my new job, and there's obviously some growing pains there. And so, I mean, we're getting there, but it's taking a little bit of time. So I guess without going into any big detail, it's just, there's some things that are just going on right now that I've just got to get worked through. And I guess now that I'm in that managerial role, it's one of those things where you can't go and ask for help in some cases, or as a sales rep, you would always have someone to ask, and hey, do you know what you're doing? I'm a team of one, so if I don't know what I'm doing, I basically need to reach out to my district manager, which she's new, and so she's kind of a lot on her plate too. So I'm kind of just at a point now where I have to learn to be a little bit self-sufficient, but I truly don't know half the
So
stuff.
it's official? You are
It's definitely
officially
official.
manager?
Oh yeah.
I knew you were going to do a trial. I hadn't heard a follow-up on that. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
good.
But it's in a very low volume store right now. So to go from one of the busiest stores in the district to one of the slowest stores in the district, and I've got to start kind of drumming up, banging the rafters and everything else to get people in. So if you know anybody that lives in Nixa area, needs their phone, have them come see me.
Will do.
Will do
I
it.
mean, that's not much of a ramp though. So
No, that's a good
And
rant.
that was more of an advertising for your store, really.
gotta go wherever I can go with it.
We can do that,
Well, the worst thing is they haven't even given him access to the social media accounts, so he can't actually
Oh.
advertise things at the moment.
Not yet.
Well, that'll come.
I have rants for his store, and I'm not even there.
Well, let's just say I rant a lot more off the air than I do.
On the
I mean, I gotta keep things kind of on the low key, but still.
Now,
Steve, you got a rant?
You know what you need to do. And that's good, because right now, if you weren't that concerned that you didn't have access to those accounts, we'd be a little concerned about your managerial skills.
Oh yeah, that's definitely coming to mind.
You know what you need to do, and not being able to do it is a problem. Very
Yeah, it's
big
painful,
problem. So
but I'm making the best of it. I mean, I stayed pretty busy today, so I can't. And it's kind of weird too, because it's, it seems like you could be completely dead, which I am most of the time, to everybody wants to come in at once.
Yeah.
And it makes it look as if I'm busy all the time. I'm just like, couldn't you come 2 hours earlier? You would have seen I wasn't doing it.
what do y'all do? Just wait around the corner in a clump, and then y'all come in?
Oh, there's someone coming in. We need to go in there too.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll come back in an hour. Never come back.
like pulling into the service station to get fuel,
It makes you want to just put like a.
and 20 other people pull in with you.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that happened. Like 3 people came in today all at once, and I'm dealing with one person. I'm like, couldn't you come in like at least 2 or 3 hours earlier? I would have been able to take care of it, no problem. But you all come in at once. All right, I guess.
They're all trying to test you because they know you're a new manager.
No, well, I don't know.
That's
You
the
know-
only employee that works there.
That is human nature, though. For some reason, I experienced it. There was a couple guys that I knew that had auto parts places, and it's like, man, if you'd have been here an hour ago, there wasn't anybody around, and now there's a line. He's the one that come up with, what are you doing, all waiting around the corner in a clump?
Yeah.
And I'd show up too at the same time, and they'd be like, because usually I needed his complete and undivided attention for a little while because I was delivering a car back to him or picking one up. Well, Patty, are you rant-worthy tonight?
I'm not sure. I've done a lot more talking today than I anticipated. So
We'll wait
a little sore.
till next week, and you can rant away.
Don't have a lot of rants on the heel of a vacation, you know.
Yep.
She'll have something next week, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
The only rant I've got is the behavior of drivers when it rains. Oh my God. You know, I'm kind of, when you're driving out on a big 4-lane road, I kind of like to keep space between me and the cars ahead and the cars behind. I don't want to be grouped up in a bunch because somebody does something stupid and you're stuck right in the middle of it. Well, people just don't get the idea that you need to give people space. It's like social distancing on the highway.
I must admit, I don't have that problem. Purely because when somebody gets a little bit too close to my back end, all I have to do is flip the lights on for a second, and you watch, that distance increases really well.
That's lucky. Because, man, I'm telling you, it was bad. And I guess the side complaint is the condition of some of the roads we drove on, especially in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Oh my God, it's like pave some of this. It was terrible.
So, was it 2 or 3 years ago, Missouri was like 48th or 49th worst roads, and or 48 or 49 and best roads in the country. We were down at the bottom of the list.
Was
They
that the
had
year
to
that?
change that. Iowa is seeking that position, I swear.
They used to be a lot better.
Oh,
have to
Was
say
that
Ohio's
the
worse.
year MoDOT realized they found like 4.5 million they didn't know that they had laying around?
well, the state
How do you
had been
have that much
taking
money, then?
the state had been taking
I
that
have
money
to
and
take a pause for the
reallocating it.
cause. Be right back.
And-
I know it's my rant.
And the legislature went in and said, you can't do that. We've got to repair our roads and bridges. So that MoDOT money now is being used as it should have been all along. Iowa's in the same position. They're robbing from IDOT to cover other
Yeah, there's
things,
that.
and IDOT is not getting the money. And even big cities are not taking care of their roads. It was horrible driving around up there. I think, and I hate to name city names, but Cedar Rapids and Junction City, Kansas are running for a title of worst roads in the USA. I will just say that from experience.
Oh, what was I gonna say?
Yeah,
I
be a second close then.
Next thing you know, Iowa will be doing what Missouri's discovered the last few years. We'll just withhold some people's state tax return, pay off bills, and then give it to them 3 or 4 months later.
So,
Maybe
so
I'd
that-
already be doing it.
to add
Oh,
to
I got
that,
hit with that a couple, 2-3 years ago.
I'd spent a pretty fair amount of my life as a professional driver. I mean, cable trucks and, doing things for other companies in my own vehicle. And
You drove the yellow line highway a time or two.
a lot, yeah. And I was kind of in charge of safety for a time at cable because they had me doing driving safety presentations. I've done driving safety presentations for Skywarn. And then, so then what that does, and I'm sure Kieran can agree, because you do that and you know what's unsafe, it just drives you crazy to see people doing stuff out there, and you know that's going to lead to an accident if you keep doing it. You know.
Just from the standpoint of the family having had the towing business, it drives me crazy whenever I see drivers in this town doing stupid things.
But, you know, this was...
Did you see the photo earlier of the car that sheared off a pole, actually drove through it, spun out, and wound up right side up in the ditch?
No, I don't guess so.
That was up on Kansas Avenue earlier
Was
today.
We noticed up here on Pythian, up by the park, right before you get to the curve where the softball complex is, there is a new leaning utility pole, and it looks like they've still got wires on it, but part of them are disconnected and stuff. We're wondering if a pole got hit again or something.
Well, after, and granted, it's been a while, but when you got rain coming down like a waterfall and you can only see a couple of 100 feet ahead of you, you need to slow down. And that was another thing that they just weren't doing, is slowing down. Finally, there was a point where I'm like, I got to get off this road. They're going to kill us. And, you know, it kind of was like, well, hey, here we are at a gas station. Let's take a break. But
Franklin, your audio's off.
I had it muted. I was talking to Mom. I had a little bit of a coughing spell.
Ah, there you go.
But other than that, I think I'm pretty well good. But every time I drive, I get, dang it, quit. People are going to kill us.
Oh, yes. I know exactly how you feel. You know, Franklin, you were talking about earlier about the sort of thin, windy roads we have over here. I don't know if I can share my screen on here. I do actually have a picture of me driving down one of those lanes yesterday after we had our first spout of rain. And you see how muddy it is.
Give it a shot if you want.
That's right.
Don't know if this will work.
Wow.
Oh my.
Ooh, gosh.
So, this is obviously an off-road Range Rover with off-road tires, and even this struggled to get through it.
Rodney, screenshot that so I can and repost it,
Okay.
or send it to
and
me
then
on Messenger, or so I can get it up there.
Excuse me.
That's what the car looked like after it had been down the lane.
Wow. So, did he have to be towed, or did he make it through?
That's my car. I was driving it.
Ah!
My friend was taking the picture. It made it. It was a big struggle, but it made it. After about 3 attempts of trying to get it through the big puddle, though.
Now, I'm going to be really impressed if someone shows me a picture of one of those and Elizabeth is driving it. Because from what I understand, she probably could.
Okay, hold on. I almost got it. All right. I'll send it to you, Steve.
All right.
Ooh, cool. Yeah, I mean, that just looks like a river of mud or thin chocolate pudding.
It's basically a mixture of mud, manure, and clay.
Oh.
That's nice. We, having grown up in a farm and doing a lot of off-roading just because that's where work was, I don't know why it is that later on in life I thought it would be pretty cool to have 4-wheel drive and go out and do that stuff. Because now I have no interest.
You know, it was huge at Hillcrest. I'd say largely because about half of the school's district lies north of Springfield. So they have a lot of country kids from northern Greene County, and probably, I think the district goes almost up like H Highway almost to Fair Grove. It goes up quite a ways. So a lot of that stuff was always popular. Four-wheeling and mudding was always popular. I never had any interest in it. I had, from about halfway through my sophomore year on through, I had an 87 navy blue Jeep Cherokee, not a Grand Cherokee, just a plain Cherokee, with four-wheel drive, but no automatic windows, no automatic locks, tan cloth interior. Loved that Jeep. I wish I had another one like it. Everyone's like, "You've got a Jeep, why don't you go four-wheeling in it?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to have to pay to fix this thing."
I would actually say the Jeeps are very good and strong off-road. The Cherokees.
Oh, I'm sure they are, and I wholeheartedly, I do like the older ones. I feel like some of the newer ones from 2005 and newer are not as good as the older ones were. But I wish I had, and there was one on Oak Grove here a few years back, not too awfully far from you and Steve, where that big yellow house is on Oak Grove right before you get to the roundabout.
Oh yeah.
They had a red 97 or 99 Cherokee that the guy wanted, like, I think $1,000 for, because he had a friend who was moving and he already had a couple other vehicles. He had no need for it, so he basically sold it to him for $500. He put like $500 or $600 worth of parts in it. He had to replace the flywheel, a couple of belts, and I think he replaced the brake pads, and I can't remember if he said he replaced the front tires or the front tires needed to be replaced, but other than that, everything else was fine on it. And we were going to see about if my grandparents would help me get it, and a guy 3 houses down from him bought it the morning that they had went to Whitewater, and I had left a voice message. "Hey, when you get in, please give me a call. I'm very interested in finding out how much you want for this and possibly test driving it." Yeah, that morning he sold it.
Always happens.
Yeah, but I mean, I love those old boxy regular Jeep Cherokees. And then my grandparents have a couple out in the field. One I know I don't think runs anymore, and the other one I'm not for sure if it runs or not. Is like the old. I think they were mid to late 70s. They're not the Wagoneers. They're still a Jeep Cherokee, but they have the old body style, more like the Wagoneers, with the back hatch that drops down and has the electric sliding glass that slides down, that every other time you try to open it doesn't work.
Oh yes. I've actually been looking for one of them.
I wouldn't mind finding one of them with a body in a decent shape and a decent engine in it, but it's going to be an old V8 and it's going to be horribly gas guzzling. That's kind of why I like kind of the 80s and 90s Cherokees, because they had those either a 4-cylinder or a straight line 6 engine in them, which everyone has always told me that straight line 6 engine that they put in those Jeeps, best engine Jeep ever made, one of the best engines I guess GMC ever made.
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, I can say one thing. If you want to get B's attention, just stick a cheap vehicle on eBay. He's set.
Yeah, he'll be watching it for a while.
watching it. He'll be buying it. Don't tempt him.
No. See, if I could find one, I can't remember. They stopped manufacturing those, I think, in either 2002 or 2005. If I could find one like a 95 to the last year they made them, that would be my spotting vehicle if I ever went out and spotted.
Yeah, because I have a few people that are looking for the older ones. I have a collector that I sell a lot of vehicles to that's looking for one.
Oh, there was a gas station, and I can't remember if they did body work or just mechanic work here in town, not too far from downtown. Oh, he probably had, I'd say, 15 or 20. They weren't the old style Cherokees. They were actually Wagoneers and Grand Wagoneers. Looked like they were about ready to fall apart. And I think the cheapest he wanted for one of them was like $9,000.
Yeah,
Wow.
they do hold their money.
They do, but these were not in good shape, or at least the body on the outside, unless the interior and the engine was just flawless. The body was not in good shape on any of them.
I agree that he wants too much, but in good restored condition, they are silly money.
Oh, I'm sure if you completely restored it and everything, you could probably get 10, 15 easy out of one in good shape.
Well, the two that I've seen that for sale over here, one's for 85,000, and the other one is for 70.
Wow, that is a bit.
That's a bit. That's
Because that's in pounds, so I don't know the translation into dollars, but
Well, as they say, an app for that.
This is the one.
Google Ninja.
Oh no, I actually have an app that I use to convert wind speeds from knots to miles per hour.
Oh.
Let's see.
My the picture I'm showing right now is where I would go as opposed to four-wheel drive.
Oh gosh.
Is that a Mountain Dew bottle sticking out of the end of
It
that?
is.
Knowing
Yes, it is.
Steve, probably.
It is.
So yeah, 70,000 pounds would be approximately $91,409.60, updated
That's
today at 9 p.m.
Like a makeshift exhaust pipe.
Yep. So there's supposed to be a
That
curve.
tractor runs.
There's supposed to be a curve in the pipe that makes the pipe go straight up.
Mm-hmm.
My friend Jim has this in his barn, and there's actually wasn't there 3 in there?
There were 2 in the garage and one outside.
And
No,
they're all
there were 3 in the garage. One I didn't get to.
Yeah,
And they're all 3
one didn't
Allison
have an engine
Chalmers.
in it. But
One was a parts tractor.
Gotcha.
so he ended up getting one, and I'll have to dig for that picture that because I know you took a picture of it.
I'm getting it to you.
That
It's on
reminds me,
your regular page.
It's been a while since I've been to a tractor pull.
Or is it in Patty's pics?
I don't remember what I put where. I'll send it to you.
Now, I can't quite make out the lettering on the front, but I'm assuming the train is an Amtrak train.
Yes.
The blue and silver one, yes. That was in La Plata, Missouri. At the
Oh, you mean they have Amtrak service there?
yeah. It's not the closest one to us. The closest one to us is in Warrensburg.
Oh, I'm not surprised, because they don't want to come within a half mile of Springfield, apparently.
No, I don't know. Oh, that's the picture of the parts tractor.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
Um, do you remember we used to have a little newspaper called the Community Free Press?
yep.
They had ran an article. It was the only place that I saw it. Springfield News Leader wouldn't even run it. Apparently, they were talking about building a single line that would run, I think, 2 or 3 times a day between Springfield and St. Louis to one of the Amtrak stations up there. I can't remember. There may be one in St. Charles, or it may have been one. There's one that I think is not too awfully far from I-44, just before you get into St. Louis. It might be around Kirkwood. I'm not for certain. But they said it would probably take about an hour or so to run back and forth, and they, have a schedule. They do that back and forth 2 or 3 times a day. And I kind of like the ideal of it, but it never went anywhere, and then I never heard anything else about it.
There you go.
You got some pretty good shots there, dear.
Thank you.
Eddie's not a bad photographer.
I didn't. I don't know. I was busy visiting, and
Sometimes you are. Sometimes you are more like, oh, I gotta take a picture of this. I gotta get this. Oh, what would it be like from this angle? And so on and so forth. And then sometimes you just want to look and visit.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I went there thinking that this was the last time I would ever see my friend, because he's fighting colon cancer. And granted,
Sorry to hear that.
he looks a little tough, a little rough around the edges.
He's got a great attitude.
Yeah,
That's good.
I walked
And he
out of
even
there
talks
thinking,
about-
he ain't gonna die. That ain't gonna kill him. Although I might be wrong, but that ain't gonna be what
he
kills
made
him.
one comment that gave it away. He was sitting there smoking a cigarette, and he said, even the doctor told me at this point it really doesn't matter. So, it's stage 4. He's still taking treatment, but, yeah, I'm kind of with Steve. It was probably our last time to see him.
We made our peace with it, though, and that was what I was concerned about doing. But to be honest with you, I don't know. He just might survive it and outlive all of us, just because he's that damn
The
honored.
attitude is a lot of it. Grandma did really, really great up until she just gave up and lost the will, and most of that was due to the kids.
But
He has great support.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know. I
great.
think he's the one keeping that bunch glued together, honestly.
And it could be. It could very well be.
But he definitely is the quintessential old Iowa farm boy.
That's like my other grandmother, Mom's mom. Me and Mom have talked for years now. We think her going around and doing for everyone is what keeps her going. She's got arthritis. She's had heel spurs, bone spurs. She's had one hip replaced. She's had one knee replaced twice. They want to replace the other knee. She won't let them. And they told my grandfather, roughly about the time that I would have graduated from high school, she'll probably be in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. Never has had to use one. And we've just said if she stopped going and doing for this grandkid, for this grandkid, for this grandkid, so on and so forth, she'd probably sit there and whittle away to nothing.
So this is one of his other tractors, but if you notice in the background some beautiful, fluffy
White
thunderhead,
things.
white things in the sky. Those were in Wisconsin. This is how flat it was in this particular area. But we were only 10 miles from Stone City, that was a scenic byway with big swoopy hills. So it dramatic changes up there.
I bet. Well, it's probably largely due to, like Steve said, all that glacification during the last ice age whenever it came through, and the glaciers gouged this part out, flattened this part off, this part over here kind of got sloped up, and you kind of almost have a mixture of all these little, not necessarily microclimates, but micro
Environments.
environments, landscapes that are a little bit different from each other, but in a relatively close area.
So the really interesting thing was the cell phone coverage. Now, Rodney,
Good, bad, or ugly.
if you look at your coverage map of Verizon, you will find a hole in extreme northeast Iowa, where there's just nothing. And there's an equally large hole for AT&T in the same place. And every time I ever went up there, I had some 2G coverage back in the day, but it wasn't much. You know, it wasn't enough I could open up Facebook and show people pictures on my phone. Well, the surprise was they're actually filling it in up there, and it's largely driven by John Deere.
Oh, okay.
They build a tractor, or their tractors now, that have onboard diagnostics that the dealer can get into from the shop while
Just
it's
like a car.
sitting out in a field.
So every little bit, they've got fiber optic, and there are now access points, so that every farmer out there, and they might be working in thousands of acres, but that tractor is always in contact
With an internet signal.
With an internet signal. It also drives the GPS. Some of those tractors almost drive themselves now.
Yeah.
They do.
And yeah. And so to have that GPS signal short of having satellite, they are now getting this service. Pretty amazing. We're out in the middle of nothing, Iowa, and they had fiber to the house. Yeah.
Yeah, and all I got to do is get him to figure out how Skype works, and I can actually talk to him on occasion.
Well, they're going to have fiber
The
out
grandson,
to the houses.
Memphis, or the grandson, Memphis, he'll get him there.
They'll have to have fiber out to the houses. That way they can have it out to the big, huge scaffolding for the dark yards when they're building all the spaceships.
You know, that's a whole nother rant in itself. We went right by Riverside. You could see the
We've
water
been there
tower from the
before,
road.
Well, I was more referring to the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies.
Well, yeah, that's my rant. They showed Riverside in the movie, and they showed it just flat desert. And I'm like, there's no way. It's hilly. It's green.
You mean that big Grand Canyon's not there?
Nope. Not even.
But it wouldn't have been as dramatic if the Corvette had went over a little hill.
Yeah, but still, dadgummit, that's not Riverside, Iowa. And there ain't no way it's gonna. Was it 2260? Was the
Hey,
date
Steve,
on the?
I'll throw you one even better. There's a bunch of fans that'll tell you that wasn't Star Trek either.
Well, I don't know. It was an alternative.
That was good
universe.
timing, Rodney.
It was an alternative universe. You can't take it away now. It's canon. But
I don't have a problem with the JJ movies. I like the JJ movies. I've not seen Discovery or Picard. I kind of want to watch Picard to see what they do with that. But I have not liked much of what I have heard come out of Discovery, and I guess I just need to watch it. But I don't want to pay another $9.99 to another subscription service just to
Right.
feed one obsession
They had
that
two
I'm likely
episodes.
not gonna like.
They had 2 episodes that were free. And I don't
Yeah.
know if they still are. I attempted to watch them, and I just couldn't get into it.
Mhm.
I would like to see Picard, but I'm not going to pay that either. So,
Let me put it this way, and yes, I am supporting Disney Plus basically for Star Wars, but I'm also supporting it for Disney. I'm supporting it for National Geographic. I'm supporting it for Marvel. There's a lot more stuff that I can get benefit out of that I'll watch than I think I ever would with CBS All Access.
right.
well,
Gentlemen, I think I need to break. I've done about all I can do.
That's
yeah.
good.
Has anyone else before you go got a rant they want to throw out there?
I think we had little mini rants that didn't even get shown on the radar.
Yeah.
I don't really have a rant since last week. I've been too mellow to rant.
Well, for one, am glad that you are healing
Thank you.
and hope that you don't get back in that shape again. So,
Yeah.
I hope not. It's really easy for it to happen, and I really need to watch things better. For those of you that may not know, last Saturday I was actually hospitalized for diabetic ketoacidosis, and I got released from the hospital Tuesday. It's basically a condition that diabetics can get where your body doesn't burn things like it's supposed to. Usually there's not enough insulin, and that results your body burning stuff and producing these substances called ketones, which are not good. They make your body very acidic, and organs can start shutting down if it gets bad enough. One thing that I have noticed, even though it's slightly different each time I've had it, I always lose my appetite, and I get to where I don't ever want to do anything but just lay around. So when I start getting so tired that I just want to lay around and I don't want to eat a thing, I need to start taking heed that I may be going into this and have it seen about.
Well, Patty, I'll let you go. I think we want to go ahead and do our 73 round.
Yeah.
So, who was the first? Patty was the first joiner, so you get to say your goodbye first.
all right. Well, I wish everybody a safe and blessed rest of your week. And I'll wish you 73.
And
So I guess I was next.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. I know we probably didn't get much on the chat and whatnot, but if you're joining us for a replay or whatnot, hopefully you got something out of it. I think it was a lot of good discussion, things about, Derechos that we don't really know, and who knows, this may spurn into something a little bit more in detail, so maybe we can understand how the whole Derecho phenomenon occurs. But again, like us, subscribe, tell your friends and family. We always would enjoy new subscribers, and we'll see y'all next week. This is K0FZ. Have a good evening.
And Kieran was next.
Thank you guys for watching, and I shall speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
All right, and this is KA0SPM, and thanks for joining. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We appreciate every one of you, and have a great night. goodbye from the Jungle Chaser Storm Team.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.